is time for the This or That tag. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is the This or That book tag. I was tagged over by Punk Rock Cereal Bowl. Channel and video will be linked down below. Before we jump into the video today, make sure you're checking my description box down below for links to my social media and Discord should you want to come along for the ride. Now this one is a quick, easy tag, so thank you so much for the tag, and let's just jump into it. I think we've got about 10 prompts plus tagging some people. I've got no idea who's done this. I know I've seen a few of them floating around, so all the names I throw out at the end, do it or don't. That is up to you. The first prompt is paperback or hardback. I'm definitely a paperback kind of guy. I don't own that many hardbacks, and the hardbacks I do own are for show, or they've somehow been cheaper than the paperback at the given time, but I don't actually like reading from a hardback all that much. They do look nice on the shelf, but I also don't need that prestige on the shelves behind me. I'm not a big limited editions person either, unless I really believe in the story. There's been a couple I've backed on Kickstarter because the artwork inside, I'm more likely to pay for artwork, or sometimes on those Kickstarters, the book itself is a work of art, or occasionally the broken binding will get me. I digress. I'm a paperback person. I actually like the mass market paperbacks that nobody else seems to like. The smaller print, they fit in your hand. I like breaking the spines. I like them to look a little bit beat up, like second-hand copies. I just enjoy a mass market paperback. I know a lot of people like those big floppy paperbacks, but they can get annoying because sometimes they're too floppy. They're fun to flop, but sometimes they're too floppy. The second prompt we have is Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. Now, my feelings about the author aside, I'm so sorry HP fans, but I actually think Harry Potter is one of the most overrated series in existence. I think there's been a lot of influence taken by other better bodies of work, and for some reason everyone just went nuts over it, so I'm definitely going Lord of the Rings. I never even finished Harry Potter when I read it, and I fell asleep in most of the movies when I was growing up. So, you know, I just wasn't all that interested. Lord of the Rings, however, I think I read The Hobbit when I was, I want to say between 10 to 12, I read The Hobbit for the first time, and I actually only read Lord of the Rings for the first time, it was either last year or the year before. It may have been the year before, and I absolutely loved it. I can see where a lot of those fantasy influences have come from. I absolutely loved the Ents, and I just wanted to be one, and it is a book series that I would actively go back and reread it sometime, because I think there is more to be gained there the more that you read it. I also have never seen the movies for Lord of the Rings. Don't come for me, but I liked the books. Prompt number 3 are real books or ebooks. Now I'm a bit of both for this one. I definitely crave the feeling of a real book in my hands as I'm reading, but ebooks are so friggin' convenient. They're cheaper. The author, a lot of the time, I mean, I read a lot of indie and self-pub, but the author makes more money at a full-priced ebook because they don't take resources to produce. It's an e-file, so they actually get more money from a full-priced e-copy, but I do crave the feeling of a physical book in my hands, and my TBRs will generally be a mix, so I get both. Prompt number 4, buying or borrowing. I'm a buyer. I'm a book buyer. I don't borrow all that much. We do have some excellent apps here in Queensland for Libby and also BorrowBox for audiobooks, and occasionally I can find audiobooks that I want to listen to, or ebooks, or even like I'm not big into manga, but they've recently started uploading manga and comics in there as well. So I do occasionally borrow books, but I definitely don't go physically into my library to borrow books. I tend to buy them, and I will usually buy them on e-copy nowadays, and then if I really like it, I'll get the physical copy. Sort of just happened by circumstance living in a place where I can't physically buy a lot of books, whereas prior to living in this place I was buying a lot more books, but now those habits have sort of changed, but I would say buying over borrowing. Next prompt is read in bed or read in a chair. If I read in bed, I'm going to sleep. I very rarely am able to read for a long period of time lying down, I will generally last about 3 minutes before I need a snooze. It doesn't matter what time of day. It can be that right after I wake up in the morning, I'll get my book out to read in bed and I'll just need to go to sleep again. So I'm a big believer in the reading chair. I have a reading chair. It's in Perth. It's probably collecting dust at the moment, and I cannot wait to sit in it again and read a good book. The next one is library or bookstore. For me, it's bookstore. The last time I went to a library, I think it was to have coffee while I waited for a car service, which was across the road. I tend to use e-libraries rather than a physical library, but I will walk into the same bookstore every time I'm there. So I work over a couple of locations in Brisbane. One is in the city. If I work in the city, usually on my lunch break, I will walk to the same bookstore that I have looked at every time I've worked in the city for the last few months, and there won't be that many new things there. I just want to be in the environment and walk around the bookstore for the sake of walking around the bookstore. When we go traveling, my wife and I, we do short trips around Australia. If there's a bookstore, she knows she's getting dragged into that bookstore, and we will have a wild time. Well, I'll have a wild time. She'll get bored. But I remember when we went to Perth before we decided we were going to live there, or this was just after we decided we were going to live there, and we thought maybe we should go and check it out first. There was a great second-hand bookshop called Elizabeth's, and they had a couple of locations, and we split up for the day because I'd mapped out different bookshops that I wanted to go and visit, and she was just going to go shopping so that I could go into the bookstores. I love bookstores. Next prompt is non-fiction or fiction. Definitely a fiction person. The real world is so depressing. I don't read a whole lot of non-fiction. I'm not a big fan of self-help books. I've read a couple. I read one last year. I don't mind the odd memoir. In fact, I think they're great ways to learn about other people's lives, people who are different from your own, whether it's someone you're interested in or someone that just has a different life to your own. I do like reading a memoir on occasion. Most of the time, I'll gravitate towards fiction, and I would argue that the thematics that come through works of fiction are just as important as those that come through non-fiction. The next prompt is print or audio. Definitely print. My audio retention is shocking. It has gotten a lot better over the last 3 years or so of listening to audiobooks, but I still listen at between 1 and 1.25 speed. I don't really go a whole lot faster than that, otherwise I'm retaining nothing. I will often have to re-listen to chapters because that audio retention just isn't there. I can't really do other things while I'm listening to an audiobook. It'll normally be I'll put it on for 15 minutes when I get into bed and just listen to a chapter of whatever I'm listening to. If I'm walking the dogs, if I'm at the gym, will be when I am able to listen most effectively, or driving to and from the office. But I'm definitely print in that regard. The next prompt is new books or old books. It's old books for me all the way. I know a lot of people like new books, and I like modern fiction, but there is something about getting a pre-loved book that's already a little bit beat up, that has been, loved by another person or by another family, and it's almost like inheritance when it is handed down the line. So I do love a second-hand book coming down to me. Coming out to the end, the last prompt before we tag people is short chapters or long chapters. I think there is a place for both. So if you're looking for something short and sharp to just have a quick read, short chapters all the way. If you're looking for something pretty meaty to be able to really start getting into characters' heads or to the thematics of the story, those long chapters are going to be where it's at. I like both. I really enjoy some chunky books for their long chapters and discussions that are had within those stories, and I also like short chapters which can break it up a little bit. I tend to read the short chapters faster, but I think that's by design, and I'm also not someone who has to finish a chapter before putting the book down or going to bed or whatever. I can finish mid-sentence and close the book and pick up in the middle of a sentence. I am that guy, so long chapters don't really bother me because I don't have to finish them before I go and do other things. The last prompt in this tag is tag your friends. I don't know who has done this and who hasn't, so I'm going to go with Christopher Navo. New channel, it's excellent channel. The thumbnails are always on point. I really like the content that Christopher has been putting out. We'll go Roger from Rogers Reads, Jen the Bookworm, who may already have done this, and an erudite adventure. Again, I'm not sure who has done this and who hasn't, but if you haven't, tag your it. That was a nice quick tag. Thank you again, Punk Rock Cereal Bowl, for tagging me this. Make sure you check out their channel down below because it is a good channel, a channel that makes me think. And I really like that he puts in videos that he enjoys at the beginning of each month. He actually shouts out videos that he enjoys. And I thought that was a really nice touch, and I quite like that, because then I'll go and look at those videos and see if I too might like them. If you like this content, give one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will. I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.